Police officers of Reddit, what's the craziest situation you've been in? My first day on the job with a small department. Get an animal complaint at a house along the river. RP states there are some angry geese in her yard that won't let her out her door. My FTO, field training officer, and I roll up. Sure enough, a gaggle of 8 big angry geese in the yard are basically barricading the little old lady in her house. We try to make noise and scatter them. They have no fear and go on the offensive. We retreat to take cover behind the squad car as we formulate a plan. We decide we will use the dog control poles, which we normally use to wrangle loose dogs, to try and catch the geese while keeping them a safe distance from us. The FTO gives me the brand new pole that has yet to be used. The FTO and I both grab a pole and head back into battle. I get close to one, and it takes off running. I follow in hot pursuit. I get within reach and make a diving leap with the pole and somehow manage to get the noose around its neck and pull it tight. As my body crashes to the ground, the pole falls free of my grasp. I watch in shock as the damn goose runs into the river dragging the brand new control pole behind. I figured the goose would slip the noose once in the water and the pole would go to the bottom of the river. Great. Now the chief is gonna be pissed I lost the brand new pole in the river. Well, the next day we got a call from a bus driver reporting kids on the bus were upset that they could see a dead goose as they crossed the bridge, and it appeared someone strangled it with some kind of pole. OF. Sure enough, that damn goose from the day before never shook the noose and managed to get the pole stuck on a piece of driftwood, pulled the noose tight, and strangled itself right in view of the school kids heading over the bridge on the bus. The FTO and I headed over to the boat launch and commandeered a pontoon boat, headed to the dead goose, and plucked it from the river. The boater was not quite sure what to think of the whole ordeal, but we all ended up having a good laugh, and I got our new animal control pole back. I never lived it down. TL. Doctor got in an altercation with a goose, lost the department's new animal control pole, upset a bunch of kids on their way to school, and commandeered a boat to retrieve the now accidentally dead goose. My brother is a cop and he often shares his stories with me. I guess I could say this story is NSFW. Anyways, he tells me that he received a call from a dispatcher saying that there has been screams reported in an apartment building. There were no other details. My brother reports to the scene, just outside the door of the apartment building. Sure enough, there's yelling. A lady is belligerently yelling, "Get it out, get it out." My brother pounds on the locked door. The lady eventually responds, saying, "I can't get to the door, please. Help me. Maybe my son can get the door. I need to get it out." My brother waits a bit, still not knowing what's going on. He hears a voice of a little boy saying that he can't reach the doorknob to unlock it. My brother talks him through some steps he can take to unlock the door. Finally, the little boy is able to unlock it. He opens the door. A violently putrid smell hits me brother immediately. The little boy seems clueless and quiet. My brother notices burnt spoons and drugs. My memory has failed me, specifically which, scattered across the floor. He follows the voice to the room, still yelling, "Please help, get it out." He enters the room and there is blood splattered absolutely everywhere. The floor, the walls. He sees a man with his fist inside the yelling woman's vagina. She continues to yell, "Get it out. I can feel the demon inside me. Get it out." Not sure how the whole situation was de-escalated. However, after further investigation, turns out the heavy drug using couple went to a psychic/fortune teller, where the lady was told that she has something evil inside of her, something along those lines. Shortly after, the couple made their way to the apartment and have sex. As he is inside of her, he says, "I think I can feel the demon inside of you. Can you feel it?" And she responds, "Yes, I do feel it. Put your hand in there. Get the demon out. Get it out." Which leads to the scene that my brother walks into. TL. Dr. Heavy drug using couple believe there is a demon inside the woman of relationship after a psychic reading. They have sex, and both believe they feel a demon inside her. This leads to the man digging inside her vagina with his hand in order to evacuate said demon. This story comes from a man I dated. He was a lieutenant in a special force in / near Lexington, Kentucky in the 1990s that dealt with human trafficking. He was around 30 years old, married with 2 young daughters and a son at the time of the incident. He'd been on the job for 9 years, having seen numerous situations in which children had been abducted, molested, used as slaves, lived in horrible conditions. The job had worn on him mentally and emotionally, as you can imagine. The last day as lieutenant, his force was sent to rescue 3 little girls and arrest their abusive, negligent father. The lieutenant said it was the saddest situation he's ever seen. The girls were confined to one room of the house, chained up, emaciated, filthy, surrounded by piles of fesses smeared on the walls. They'd been repeatedly sexually abused by their father, and fed like dogs from a plate on the floor, where they also slept. The stench was overwhelming. He imagined his own little daughters in that atrocious situation. Needless to say, he was furious. The girls were taken from the home. The father was arrested and handcuffed. 2 officers walked the handcuffed father to the car, 1 on each side. The lieutenant walked several feet behind. When the father stopped walking, the lieutenant told him to keep moving. This happened a few times until the father stopped suddenly, turned to the LT, and said smugly, "You got any daughters?" The lieutenant saw red. All he remembers is what he was told. He grabbed the father, knocked him down, and slammed his head into the pavement several times until the other officers pulled him off. He calmed down for a moment, then attacked the father again with 4 officers trying to pull him off. He smashed the father's skull into the pavement until he was dead. I don't know what charges were made against the LT, if any at all, if he was tried, and I was too shocked to ask. He did tell me that he lost his job and pension. My boyfriend, the LT, told me the story with overwhelming remorse. He cried as he told it. He didn't mention it again, and I never asked. Did a stop on a pretty obvious dope car. Driver is tweaking on meth. Passenger also tweaking, and is a female that weighs 95 pounds, while being 5 feet 8 or so. She looked like a concentration camp victim. She's offering to provide oral services in exchange for her release. Obviously I decline. Guy in the back appears to be asleep. I get his ID from the tweaking driver as my backup arrives. We get all 3 out. I can see needles all over the car. The guy in the back wakes up and gets out. Dispatch gives us returns, letting us know the back passenger has a parole violation. He was released early from prison IYDK for felon in possession of a firearm. The dispatcher was supposed to warn us before giving the return out loud over the radio, but didn't in this case. Old dude stands up and reaches in his waistband. I see this happening in slow motion and realize it's about to get real. My partner swings from around the other side of the vehicle where he was talking to one of the other suspects. I start to yell gun in time for my partner to straight up linebacker this dude, which we got into cuffs. Had a .45 in the waistband. I went home and hugged my son, who was 1 at the time. Edit, was out at a family function. I'm about to start replying to all the messages. Thank you. Second edit, I have a few more good ones, if anyone cares to hear them. Also, I don't work patrol anymore. I'm a detective with my agency now. I posted another story below. Thanks for the positive words. 99% of cops are out there every day doing honest work to keep you safe. My uncle is a cop in Florida, and since I just visited, he told me his crazy story of the week. They had been called to this house probably about a dozen times within the last 6 months. This woman and her boyfriend had both been in and out of jail, both for domestic violence, and their boyfriend had some drug charges as well. The woman had just been released on parole after beating her mother. This wasn't the first time. The 911 call was from the woman saying that her boyfriend was dead and she had come home to him dead. He had been stabbed in the place between the neck and the shoulder over and over. I'm not sure how many times. He was also stabbed in the chest after he was dead. She was perfectly calm on the phone, and when police arrived, they pretty much immediately arrested her. At the station she changed her story multiple times. At her trial, she said that they had been fighting, but said that she didn't kill him. Forensic evidence, neighbor testimony, her mother's testimony, and police officers who arrived on the scene was more than enough to convict. The other one is from forever ago. When my uncle was sheriff, he got a domestic disturbance call. He showed up to the property to find a black man screaming at a black woman. I promise this is important. The man was standing in the middle of the street, yelling at this woman standing in her doorway, calling her a renand and black devil, cunt, whore and more racist and sexist obscenities. People were looking from behind their curtains wondering what the hell was going on. My uncle started approaching, saying who he was and why he was there. The man in the street turned to him, and in a normal speaking voice, finally, the cops are here to take that N***GRESS away. My uncle was from the deep south. This wasn't anything he hadn't heard before, but he was so floored by this guy. He asked what the problem was, and this man told my uncle about how this dangerous N***, had moved in and ruined this neighborhood. He asked if she had done anything, and the man kept repeating, look at her skin. She's black as shit. My uncle got him in his car and had his deputies take statements from the woman and the neighbors. The whole ride to the station this man talked about how she dirtied the neighborhood and had no right to live there. When he was questioned, especially about how he could say what he did, he said that he was saved because he was light-skinned. He got a restraining order, as well as a few years for disturbing the peace and something else I can't remember. Dad tells the story of a guy he knew who kept getting caught for writing bad checks. He was such a big guy he wouldn't fit in the police car, so they would just meet him at the magistrate office and write him tickets. I know, some trust, but a year or so after this kept happening, he got a call that there was a domestic dispute at the house. So they rush over there, and he's got an axe in his hand sitting on the front porch all bloody. They approach and tell him to put the axe down, which he does, and proceeded to tell them that his wife is in the bathtub, or at least her head is. But guy was completely open and cooperative, didn't run or anything. Asked if he could meet them at the magistrate office, and dad was like, yeah, nah dog, you're gonna have to get in the car this time. Edit. Thanks for the award, kind stranger. Attended a structural fire in a downtown high-rise. Was tasked with evacuating local residents in case the building collapsed. Third house I went to, the guy answers in a full bunny suit with gas mask propped up in his head. English wasn't his first language, and as I was trying to communicate that he needed to evacuate, it became clear he was running a meth lab inside. Arrested Asian Walter White, and then had to sit in the shadow of the structure fire keeping eyes on the house while waiting for clear, clandestine lab team to show up. In that time fire trucks basically surrounded my vehicle, so I couldn't move it, even after clear team moved in. Walter had his lawyer call on my PC, and it was about 10 hours before we could head back to cells. I've never had to piss so badly in my life. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Edit 2. I've been requested to remove this clarificatory edit to enhance narrative enjoyment. It can found in the comments if you are confused. Definitely the time that an older, mentally ill woman tried to burn her house down because she believed that was the only way to disarm the atom bomb in her attic. I got her to walk with me to my car and get in the back by telling her it was the only place she'd be safe. When I got in and started driving, she started yelling that I couldn't take her to jail because she hadn't done anything wrong. I calmly informed her that we were going to the hospital, which prompted even louder yelling of, "I'm not crazy." I replied, "I don't think you're crazy." She screamed, "Then why are you taking me to the hospital?" I told her, "Well, you were next to that atom bomb, right? We gotta get you checked for radiation poisoning." Her eyes got wide and she said, "Oh shit. I didn't think about that. You better hurry." Edit. I can't believe with all the attention this got, no one pointed out that I had ABCs driving instead of and driving. Swipe plus posting when tired is a dangerous combo.